Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Soul Survivor podcast. We are back here with another episode 2 recap of Survivor Season 42. My name is Dylan Bird. I'm your host alongside my co-host, Ryan Winthrop. Ryan, we had, another good episode tonight, another episode that made me really, really high on this cast going forward. As you said before when we were talking, kind of felt like a classic Survivor episode. What were your thoughts, Ryan? And happy to be here again.
Dylan, happy to be here talking Survivor with you again. I think you summed it up perfectly. Felt like a classic episode in general, and I really enjoyed it. Cast is great, 2 episodes in. And another reason why I felt like classic Survivor is, who needs Rob and Amber when we have Marianne and Zach? That's all I'm saying.
Well, that was a pretty funny aspect that was added into this episode. And again, we'll talk a lot about Marianne later. Now, this again, like you said, classic Survivor episode, classic challenge. Now, before we go into things chronologically here, one thing that I am really happy with early in this season is that they're clearly editing the game differently than it was edited last season. And I believe also maybe they were a little bit overwhelmed by how many twists production was overwhelmed by how many twists they put into the game that early last time. And I mean, it showed in the screen time of last season where basically 3/4 of the first 3 episodes were all advantage heavy and completely based on that. We didn't even know the people that were playing. We didn't know our cast. Next thing we know, it got better as the season went on, but fast forward to this season and there's already not a huge focus on advantages this early, and we're focused more on the cast. And as a result, I mean, I'm not sure if it's just, a more likable or better cast, or they're just editing it differently and making the cast seem more likable. But I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed with this cast so far. And I feel like I'm getting to know pretty much everybody already. Like there's nobody that I really feel that I don't really know yet. And I think that's, testament to the editing change in this season.
Yeah, no, I completely concur. I think that the editing and granted, they are still doing some backstories, they are still doing some things from 41, but I think the editing is definitely more even across the board. I think the biggest indicator of that is that last season, you could argue we knew Ua very well because they kept losing, and then we knew Yase pretty well because of the whole, knowledge is power and Xander's beware advantage and Evie and Tiffany. So we knew them pretty well, but you could argue that we didn't know Luvu really at all until the merge, because all we really saw was that Deshawn wanted to throw a challenge to get rid of Erica, and that was it. This season, I mean, granted, yes, Vati, the green tribe, has lost 1. Ika, the blue tribe, has lost 1. Taku. See, I'm already messing them up. Taku, orange, Ika, blue have lost a challenge already, so we've gotten to know them. But we've gotten to know Vati, the green tribe, pretty well, even though they haven't lost. Like, I could tell you a decent amount about each person in the game and where they're aligned. So that just shows you that the editing is certainly better and it's more focused on the characters, like you said.
Right. And I don't think it hurts that we have some great players on this green tribe. It's pretty evident. Now, again, we had great players on the blue tribe. Like we had several players that went to final 7, and we had the winner of the game on the Luvu tribe last season. But it was like there was no particular reason to show them until Nasir found the idol. So right now we have, obviously we'll talk about it, but Mike finds the beware advantage here, and there's a reason to show them. But I also think that this group is a very interesting. I think this group is very interesting, and I think it's one that will probably have a huge impact on the game. And I think that's why, they are being shown. Plus, I'm sure they've learned from their mistakes last season. So it is great to see. So like normal, we will go through this episode chronologically. I don't expect this podcast to be nearly as long as the last one, as obviously, typical episode here, not a 2-hour one. But before we get started here, just wanted to remind everyone to be sure to subscribe to this channel, like this video, really helps us out. Also, you could follow us on social media at Soul Survivor Pod on Twitter and Instagram. You could subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Spotify. Links are in the description below. Be sure to give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple. That really helps us out. And let's get to it. If you got any questions, be sure to drop them in the chat. And we will try and get to as many as we could at the end of the episode. But, we kick off here, episode 2. We are at the Ika tribe, who just went to tribal council last episode. And we see, Zach voted out last episode, and we see, Tori reflecting on that. We see from this, blue tribe, and I'm just going to refer to them as colors until
It's probably better. Yeah.
And a lot of people may not know what I'm talking about because I'm sure, some people just think about it as colors like I do. But the blue tribe, they were kind of showing you the emotions of the game even this early. We're on, I believe it was day 3. And, Tori is like, well, like there's like a jealousy factor that he's about to go eat a cheeseburger and he's about to go sleep in a bed and they're going back right out to camp. It just shows the emotional toll that Survivor does take on you. And I think it's there's kind of an interesting dynamic going on in this blue tribe. Like I really like them. And I'm rooting for them to do well, but at the same time, I'm like, I can't really get a read on whether or not they're good players.
Well, Dylan, I think the reason is because this is our hot mess tribe. Every season, or at least every 3 tribe season, we always have our Matt Singh. We always have our hot mess tribe. Last season, it was the green tribe, and now this time it's the blue tribe. And you're right, it's kind of hard to get a read on them, and we'll see later in the episode why, because people make an alliance, and someone rats it out a second later. So you never know what's going to happen with this blue Ika tribe. But yeah, no, I mean, this was a pretty simple scene when we opened the episode coming back from the vote, because Zach was voted out unanimously the first time in history, and nobody was left out of the loop, which and there have been votes before where it's like 9-1 and everyone comes back to camp on the same page, but like this time genuinely it was unanimous vote, and so no one has to do damage control, no one's been left out of the vote yet. So pretty simple scene, but I think this basically, I know some people don't want to see the crying. I have some friends who are texting me, they're very old school fans, and like, oh, I don't like the backstories, I hate the slow-mo, I don't like the crying and the sob stories. But like, I mean, if you go back to the earlier seasons, like people show their emotions, people talk about their backstories, and we get to know these players as actual people. So I think it's interesting to see these people vulnerable. So
yeah, I think they're doing a good job of kind of making us know everyone. Like I feel like I know almost everyone on the blue tribe pretty well, just like to get started there.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we're going to talk about them in a little, but right now let's move to Taku, where it goes right after that. And we have, Marianne, who has, she has a ton of energy. She's, hitting the wood with the machete, the bamboo. Jonathan's moving out of the way because he doesn't trust her. And then you have, Omar is informing everyone about how, his life, he's a Muslim. He has all these traditions because of that he follows because of his religion. He just wants to let everyone know. So if he's doing something specifically, it doesn't look, if he's going to pray, it doesn't, look like he's, going to look for an idol. I think this was really like good move by Omar. I think he's like connecting with people very well. Especially for somebody who seems like he could have been like an odd person out preseason based on just strictly based on his bio. He is really doing a great job of connecting with people. And I think, again, like it's he for whatever reason, and I don't know if he's just this type of guy, Omar, he comes off as, very authentic when he talks. Like I cannot like picture him lying. So like I could see like when he's talking to the tribe, people are going to believe him. And I think that's, something to watch out for later in the season. That's just my vibe on Omar right now.
Yeah. So Omar, I mean, obviously I can't compare these two players yet because we're still early on, but Omar, has that type of David Wright energy where David Wright's, a bit, smaller, especially compared to Jonathan, and, David would make jokes and people would laugh and he was very funny. And, I get that vibe from Omar. Omar's making jokes like, what did he say, that he didn't pee standing up until he was like 25, and he's a 30-year-old version, but he doesn't want to be a 40-year-old version, according to the Steve Carell movie. So like, he has that type of David Wright energy where he's very charismatic, he's very funny, and he brings people in. So I think it was funny because Omar brings people in that way, and Marianne is obviously very likable, but she has a lot of energy. The thing that I found interesting about this, other than Marianne's like, Shining reference, like here's Johnny, here's Marianne, is that I know preseason we were talking about people maybe looking to vote out Marianne because she's very likable and she could be a threat to win the game, kind of like an Elaine, you could say. And I guess what I didn't consider was like how much energy she has. Like it's great to have energy out there because you're very bored out there, but when you are like at a 10 for 24 hours, it might start to wear on people. And I actually didn't consider that. I mean, I had a feeling she wasn't going to go home tonight, but I didn't take into account that you could have energy in the game and people will be drawn to you based on your energy. But if you're kind of overbearing with it, it might start to grate on people a little bit.
Marianne to me is like, she's like a combination of like a and I mean this in a good way. She's like a combination of like an Elaine, a Nora, and a JD all in one. Like she has so much energy. I think she knows what she's doing. She just talks a lot. And there's nothing wrong with that. But in the game of Survivor, you need to try to, you got to try to blend in a little bit, and not, stick out completely. But I think she has that Nora type energy. She has like that personality where like everyone likes her with like Elaine and like JD. But at the same time, when I say JD, like I do think she knows what she's doing in the game. I think she's a big fan of the show. So I think she's like kind of a, she's like that oddball, weird combination of all three of that. And I love it. Yeah. I think it's great TV. I think she's clearly becoming a fan favorite. I don't know how long she lasts in this game. We'll have to see. It's going to depend a lot on how well they could do in challenges, but she is great TV.
Yeah, and again, this is another weird comparison because I'm not comparing them at all. But this, I think back to a great confessional from Palau when Wanda is singing in the boat and she just keeps singing, and then Kobe is like she just kept going and going and going and going, and that's kind of the vibe I got where people were like, Marianne's so fun, and then you're like, okay, she's at this level for the whole day. But it was fun to see.
We have a comment, and I wait until
I know. You saw me laughing. I was chuckling.
We have a comment from Christian here. Comment of the night already, even though we're early on. He says Marianne equals Billy Garcia. Unbelievable comparison from Christian here in the comments. But it was so good. We are going to get to Taku more in a bit, especially because they go to Tribal Council. Right after this, we go to Vati, the Green Tribe, where we see Chanel and Jenny trying to catch a crab. The tribe's eating it, but we get, that personal, again, another personal backstory kind of Hai. He's vegan, so he's facing this ethical dilemma of whether or not he's going to just go and eat coconuts the entire, time, but he realizes he can't do that in order to stay in the game. He's got to eat, the fish and the crabs. So eventually he decides to eat it. Again, this was just a kind of another example, and this was similar to the Omar thing. Just like kind of getting to know each person on a personal level. I know like some people, they may not love personal backstories in Survivor. But I think that Survivor they like really hurt us when we were not happy about not knowing a lot about a lot of players last season. They're putting a lot of these personal moments in so we could feel this personal connection early on. And it'll make it a better season ultimately. So again, this was a pretty cool moment to see. Again, as I keep saying, pun intended, I'm very high on Hai going forward. So it was good to get to know him a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously showing growth. You don't want to read too much into like a winner edit, but obviously this is good stuff for Hai because he recognizes like, look, this is something that goes against, what I believe in, and it makes me uncomfortable. But listen, we say all the time, Dylan, in a 6-person tribe, especially early on, you're looking for any reason to get rid of somebody. And the last thing Hai wants as a big fan of the show is to go home because he doesn't fit in with eating meat or eating the crab. So, I commend him for, saying to himself, like, listen, I'll have to, figure out some things later, but right now it's good for my game. So I'm going to do it. And right away, people were like, oh, nice. Hai. Like, and I'm sure they were proud of him for trying it. Like, I guarantee you, if he went to have a few bites and then said, I don't want to do anymore, they would have been proud of him for even giving it an attempt. So I guess good for him.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And now we go back to the Blue Tribe here. And this is probably the last time we're going to talk about the Blue Tribe, other than maybe the challenge for a few minutes, because they end up, not going to Tribal. Kind of a weird foreshadowing moment here in this. And we saw a little bit of this in the preview of the episode, but obviously not a lot. Drea says she has her alliance with Roxroy and Romeo. However, she wants to expand her options and kind of have a girls' alliance with Swati and Tori. Tori and Swati, however, at first it looked like they were all in, and then they spoke individually and they were like, well, what if we just vote Drea out? And I was like, whoa. First of all, and I was like, are you kidding me? So like Tori was clearly on the chopping block last episode. Obviously Zach went home, but Tori looked like she was in trouble, and she's going to turn around and instead of just taking the numbers in a 3-2, she's going to now want to vote out Drea, who's the biggest threat. But not go with the numbers. And then all of a sudden you're at a 2-2 again. So, and you voted out your most physical player, your strongest your strongest player in, obviously they don't know that the tribes are going to get whittled down, but they don't have any signal of a tribe saw coming. You have to win challenges early, and Drea is clearly the strongest person on your tribe for that. Yeah. So, I mean, not only do I think it was dumb of them to even, question voting her out in terms of a numbers game. I think it didn't make any sense on any level. But the fact that they kind of hinted that a girls' alliance could happen makes me think that maybe they will get together for a vote or two here or there coming up. And I hope that, obviously, again, this was literally a 1 to 2 minute segment of the episode. I think this is possibly foreshadowing a girls' alliance of them down the road. And I hope that they reconsider the alliance with Drea. Why wouldn't you want to use? You already know she has the extra vote. If she is going to use it against you, then it's coming. Why not use her to your advantage as a number, and then you have a 3-2 advantage in your tribe, especially if you're Tori, who was almost on the outs last vote. So again, I hope that Swati and Tori reconsider this, because I think it's their best option moving forward in this tribe.
So it's interesting because, we know from last week that basically where the tribe stands is that, like you said, Romeo, Roxroy, and Drea have an alliance, but I think it's pretty clear that Tori was on the bottom. At least that's what they showed, because Swati has an in with Roxroy, and the vote was between Tori and Zach, especially because Romeo didn't want to lose his side alliance with Zach. So I thought the whole episode, if this tribe loses, I think Tori's the one that goes. And I think with Drea, I don't blame her for wanting to expand her options, because technically, if that 3-person alliance holds, she's in the majority. But she's saying to herself, if somebody flips, I want to have my options. I don't blame her for it. But I think the only thing I'm questioning is, she and Tori have been at odds pretty much, the last episode. And I think we've heard from exit interviews that, oh, well, Tori and Drea, weren't clicking right away. So I see why she wants to make a women's alliance to expand her options, but I am a bit surprised that she went to them with this, because as you see right away, that she leaves and Swati and Tori are like, we should get rid of her. And Tori's like, I've been saying this, the way forward is to get rid of Drea and this tribe. But again, I do agree with you that, they're going to keep Jonathan for strength. They have to keep Drea for strength. Like, Drea clearly is the strongest person on this tribe, and I don't think they can afford to lose her. So maybe this is foreshadowing a Drea downfall, but I just feel like Tori's still in the worst spot in this tribe, personally.
So my guess on Drea is, obviously it's great to be friends with everybody in your tribe. Obviously, it could be a double-edged sword in the fact that people could realize that you're really playing the game. Maybe it's possible, because if you're in Dre's spot, you have to realize, I don't think any of us think Roxroy is going far in this game. Maybe she's a little bit afraid of, being with Roxroy long term, in the fact that he could be somebody that goes, and then all of a sudden, if you don't have a relationship with Tori and Swati, it could be problematic. So I don't know. I think it was good to keep her options open. I think that is the way that, at least that's the way that Tori and Swati should go. I don't know. Drea, obviously, she has her options, and she has to evaluate who would be better for her game going forward. I think the reason she doesn't like, or she seems to be at odds with Tori, is because I think that they're both playing really hard. And when two players play really hard at the same time, they're going to clash. Like, just think of Dom and Chris Noble, in Ghost Islands. They were completely clashing for half the season because they were both playing so hard and trying to be that guy. So I think that, that could be a reason. Now, before we just move on from this tribe completely, again, like you said, they are kind of the hot mess tribe as of now. And I'm trying to get some kind of read on it. I can't really tell if I still can't really tell if Tori's going to end up going far or if she's going to fizzle out soon. I can't really tell if Drea is, going to have kind of this also fizzle out or go far. It's just, I think everything's kind of a mystery, but Romeo does seem to be in a pretty good spot. We haven't mentioned him yet.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting. Like, I think Drea in a way was trying to do what Romeo is doing, because I said to you last week after we talked about Zach going home, I thought Romeo was in the best spot because he has this 3-person alliance, and I don't think Swati is shown to go after him, nor Tori. And if anybody was to leave that tribe, I told you last week, it would either be Tori because she's on the bottom, potentially Roxroy if they get tired of him being bossy, or if they make a power move against Drea. Like, I think Romeo would be in one of the safer spots on this tribe. And I think when Drea tries to make an alliance with the girls, I think she's trying to position herself kind of like where, like you said, she's good with everybody, like Romeo is, but she was a bit more, obviously upfront about it and a bit more blatant about it. And the thing I'll be curious to think about as the week goes on, as we head into next episode, and as I absorb and listen to my other podcasts, she went to them and she said, to solidify this, I'm going to tell you I have an extra vote. I'm curious if people are saying to themselves, like, would they have immediately turned around and said, let's target her, if she just said, I want to make a girls thing, but didn't feel the need to mention that she has an extra vote yet? Because technically, if she catches a whiff that the girls are going to turn on her, or even if like they rope in, let's just say they rope in Romeo, for example, she can still have rocks and then her extra vote. So I'm wondering if her saying that she has the extra votes, let alone the amulets, is like what maybe tipped them over as well. I don't know.
Yeah, I would not have done that if I were Drea. Again, obviously, this seems to be the tactic of several players in these new school seasons, but
Yeah.
we'll have to see what happens going forward. Now to move on, we have into Taku Tribe, Omar and Jonathan. Becoming kind of sort of a power duo that nobody expected, and we spoke about this preseason. Where we were looking at Omar's bio, and Omar said he did not like Ozzy. And meanwhile, we had Jonathan who said he wanted to play the game like Ozzy. And you said, how are Jonathan and Omar going to work together if Omar doesn't like this type of guy, this type of player?
I was wrong.
And next thing we know, we have some sort of Christian mayor of Slamtown duo thing going on here. And I tweeted that out. I was like, this just reminds me of Christian and Mayor of Slamtown. You got this huge guy, and then you got, this Omar type. And they are broing out, and they are a duo, and it looks like they are completely locked in, maybe as locked in as we've seen any duo so far. And I absolutely love to see that. Also, Jonathan seems to be pretty close to Lindsay. So I think that they're like a strong 3 right now. That was pretty clear by the way that the tribal council shaked out. I think that, like you said, it would be shocking to see them lose again anytime soon. So these 3 or 4, depending on whether or not Marianne makes it or not, could be pretty strong going forward.
Yeah. So, and again, like I said, I was wrong. I did not think they were going to align, but all the time we see, odd couples form. I mean, listen, you can go back to season, and for any people that are like, oh, I don't like this alliance or whatever, people get all, they complain about nothing. You go back to season 1, Rich and Rudy aligned, and you have Rudy, who's a 72-year-old retired Navy SEAL, and you have Richard, who's a mid-40s, 50s gay man. So like you can look for odd couples anywhere. So I again, I was wrong. I did not think they were going to align. But it was pretty cool to see. And you and I were texting, and I think we have been more impressed with Jonathan. I think we had a certain perception of Jonathan heading in, and he seems to be doing pretty well. He's obviously, like you said, tight with Lindsay. He and Omar click very well, and he wants to get to know Marianne. I don't think this tribe is going to lose again, but that's what I said last week. But if they do lose, I would be very curious what happens, because if we have a 2 versus 2, is it going to come down to Marianne's extra vote? Is Omar going to maybe want to go with Jonathan and Lindsay, perhaps? So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens if Orange Taku loses again, even though I don't think they will.
Yeah, and I can't tell. I think John, if I had to go with a comparison and I'm trying to come up with as many comparisons as I could, as you can see.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to come up with a comparison for Jonathan, it would be the mayor of Slamtown from season 37. Like that's kind of how I'm seeing him right now. It's like, this huge guy, but like is really doing well with social game, connecting, and kind of seems like he knows what he's doing. Again, we're only 2 episodes in. We haven't seen a lot happen yet. Things could change as the game goes on, but I'm getting good vibes from him, and he said he was going to try to lower his threat level. And I think as of now, he's, doing a better job than I expected socially.
So you're saying he's our next mayor of Slamtown, Johnny Nitro, John Morrison, Johnny Mundo, Johnny Impact, Johnny Tsunami, the Shaman of Sexy, the Wednesday Nights Alive. You're saying he's the next guy.
Yes.
So, okay. And the other thing before we move on to the next tribe is only because we do lose Mariah this episode. We knew kind of once this tribe lost, as we'll get into, that she was probably going to go home, but we do get her backstory package where she talks about what she mentioned in the pregame interviews, that her brother was the first healthcare worker in the U.S. to die from COVID, and it was a very emotional thing for her. And I did feel bad. I do think she did feel kind of on the outs there, but I'm glad she was able to share her story at least.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of predicted from the pregame press that she was going to be on the outs of this tribe, just because, like, her, in terms of her age, she didn't really blend in with anybody but Jackson, and then Jackson got pulled. So like that was immediately a problem for her. And again, nothing you could do about that. I definitely feel bad for her in terms of that. But yeah, shout out to the healthcare workers, and that was really a great story that she had about her brother. So that was again, there, some people, don't love that, all these crazy backstories are in Survivor right now. But I think that was amazing to hear from her. And definitely a great story. So, now in terms of, now we move from Taku here to the Vati, the Green Tribe, where we have our first Beware advantage found of the season, and it is by Mike. Mike, again, I did not expect a lot from him this season, again, completely based on pregame press. And all of a sudden we have, Mike, searching the jungle and finding the Beware advantage. And I thought Mike was doing such a great job last week. Like, he seemed like the non-threatening leader of the tribe. And that's very hard to pull off. So usually when you're a leader, you're in a power position, you are a big target. But, sometimes you have a personality like Mike where, you're a little bit older, you're 58 years old or 57 or however old he is. And, if you're on Survivor and you see this guy, you're like, oh, okay, he won't be like, and again, he doesn't look like he's 58, but you're like, oh, I don't think this, if this guy's 58 years old, I don't think he'll be a huge threat in this game. And next thing we know, he's searching the jungle and finding a Beware advantage, which, again, like last season, can only be activated as an idol if, all the phrases are said on, between the three tribes and they find it as well. But right away, as, a lot of people do in this new age of Survivor, he goes and tells Jenny and he goes and tells Daniel.
I mean, Boston Rob said on Twitter, and I'm sure a lot of other older alums feel this way, like, hey, the new school can't keep their mouth shut anymore. You find something, you don't tell anybody. So, yeah, I'm very surprised that Mike, okay, I'm not surprised he told Jenny because Jenny is his number one, but then he goes and tells Daniel. And in a small tribe of 6, it's going to spread like wildfire. Like, now the 4 people know, himself, Jenny, Daniel, and Chanel. I would not be shocked if Hai and Lydia find out as well. But yeah, he finds this advantage, Dylan, and we get our first phrase of the season, which is the game of soccer has such grace, it makes me want to cry. And as Mike says immediately in confessional, I can't do a Jersey accent, but like, I don't like soccer. I coached my boys' football game, and I told them soccer's not even a real sport. I don't believe in soccer. So he offended all the soccer aficionados out there. But no, it's just, Mike is just fun. Mike is just fun to watch.
Yeah, he still gives off that, even though this will make him a lot more threatening, he still gives off that non-threatening vibe, even if he's not trying. Like, he told Daniel that he found the idol, but then proceeds to immediately lose the idol that he buried himself, which was, by the way, hilarious. It's just like, again, he's just finding ways, and this is not even intentional. It's just his personality. He does not seem like a threatening player, even though he might be a threatening player. Like, him losing it, that the idol is just like, Daniel couldn't believe it. Like, Daniel's sitting here like, oh, like, I'm supposed to fear this guy. He just found an idol. He's giving me all this information. And meanwhile, he can't even find it. Like, I can't even believe it. By the way, Daniel, when Mike told him and found it finally, and he was reading it, him being like so excited, like as a super fan, and like, oh, this was Jeff had a great idea. That was hilarious to see. Daniel has, I love Daniel. Daniel has a lot of great commentary throughout the thing, and he had it in the challenge also when he was sitting out, and they kept showing it. It was absolutely great. But again, we'll have to see what happens with Mike, and whether, again, I feel like you have to kind of tell at least one person when you don't have a vote. But at the same time, I don't think he needs to go a step to tell Daniel, because Daniel is he might be the smartest player on the season that we've seen so far. And again, it's very early, but his idea to immediately like this was, and again, my brother made this comment while we were watching together tonight. It's kind of crazy how the season 42 cast, even though they haven't seen season 41, they're handling these new advantages that they've never seen before a lot better than the season 41 cast did. Like, Xander was like all of them on that tribe were so panicked. They didn't really know what to do when all this happened. And, Xander found the Beware advantage. He told everyone, first of all, but then like they were all like shocked. They didn't know what to do. Daniel, like, he saw this advantage. He read it once and he was like to Chanel, he's like, oh, we need to make sure that idol never activates. So either we can vote Mike out or just convince him never to say it. And look, Mike did not say the phrase tonight at the challenge. So although we did not see whether or not he convinced him to do that or not, I think that's something we'll find out later on. Either Mike is not going to say it and stay on the good side of Daniel and Chanel and maybe the rest of the tribe, or he is going to say it and he's, going to be a big threat and maybe others will get the idols activated. So I actually think that Daniel may be able to pull this off and try to convince Mike not to say it. in some sort of, like we'll be tight together. I'll protect you if you don't activate the idols. This is like an extra layer of game theory that we didn't really see last season. It was kind of just like chaos of people trying to say the phrases at the right time. So it's all going to be really interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I think I think there's a lot to unpack here, especially because once we get past the challenge, the rest of the episode kind of flew by in the last 15 minutes. Nothing of note really happened there. But this is interesting because, well, for one, I think you and I were pretty much aligned in terms of our thoughts on Daniel in the preseason. We both thought he was going to be a great character, which 2 episodes in, he clearly is a lot of fun to watch. I think our only concern with him was, could he go far, or was he going to like flame out early as some of these super fans do? And I'm happy to see so far, at least, that he seems to have, a good footing in the tribe, where this Green Tribe Vati seems to be a 2-2-2 split of Jenny and Mike, Daniel and Chanel, Lydia and Hai. So it'll be interesting to see if they go to Tribal, who links up with who. But no, I think Daniel's in a pretty good spot so far. He recovered well from his shoulder incident in the first episode. But yeah, no, I mean, this, like you mentioned, this cast overall is very likable. I think, so from what I've seen on social media and from talking to you and some other friends, I think more people so far, 2 episodes in, we have a long way to go, are liking this cast a bit more. And I do think that they are responding pretty well to the twists already, especially compared to last season. And I think Daniel brings up a very good point here, because, I mean, yeah, like you could just say to Mike, listen, we're going to use this as for ourselves, and don't say anything. Or if you want to, if you're like a fan of the show and you want to prevent as many advantages in the game as possible, you cut Mike out. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure if you cut out one of the idols in the pre-merge, they all lose their power at that point. So you eliminate three. And so if Daniel reads this clue correctly, he eliminates 3 idols off the bat. Now, last season, we didn't see this happen, because in season 41, no idols were played. And you're right, even though Xander found the Beware advantage and Evie and Tiffany and Liana had a chance to take him out, they decided to take out Voce, and they kept in Xander, even though they could have eliminated Xander and his idol because he didn't have a vote. They kept him until the merge. And then, I mean, granted, no idols were played, so it didn't really matter in the end. But now we're seeing a spot where if Vati, the Green Tribe, loses, we could see Daniel say to Chanel, I think it's too risky. I think we just take him out. So it'll be very interesting to see how Daniel and Chanel choose to play this going forward.
And based on the preview, I don't want to read into it too much, but based on the preview of next week, it looks like Mike may lose the idol again. So is this going to be just like a funny, consistent thing where he just forgets where he buries it? Or are we going to get a situation where Daniel knows that the idol is in a certain place? He saw where it was buried. Maybe Daniel hides the idol from Mike so he can't activate it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Daniel said when Mike is like, I buried it, in one of these crossroads. And Daniel's like, Mike, there's 20 different crossroads here. You can't just bury it at a fork when they're all forks. And you're right, because technically, like we saw in Game Changers, a lot of these advantages are non-transferable. So Daniel can't steal it from Mike. That being said, if Daniel sees him bury it, and then they're going to go to Tribal, and Mike's like, where did I bury it? Daniel could be like, I don't know. I don't remember. I thought you buried it at this tree or that tree. I have no idea where it is. And that could be Mike's downfall. So, I mean, by the way, Dylan, I have to say, if Mike lost it once, I wouldn't bury it again. I know people go through bags. I know people look through your stuff, so you don't want to bring it with you. But, like, bury it, like, under the water. Like, bury it somewhere where you know you're going to find it. Don't put it next to a tree. Like, that blows my mind. And maybe I'm not thinking like a Survivor player, but whenever I see in these seasons people find idols and then they immediately rebury it by a tree, I'm right away like, I'm going to lose track of where it is with all these trees. Put it next to some type of landmark or something, like under the tribe flag, somewhere where I know I'm going to find it.
Yeah, my guess is that this whole losing the idol thing is just like a funny character development thing for Mike, and it's just going to be like a thing throughout the season, possibly like a laughable thing. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out for sure. Now we head to the immunity challenge where we find out Marianne has a crush on Zach. That was pretty hilarious. We spoke about that before. She couldn't stop talking about it. But then we had a classic blindfold challenge with a caller, something I don't believe we had in season 41. And it's a classic Survivor challenge. I always say, one of my favorite types of challenges are the blindfold challenges. So it was great stuff to see. that they brought the Blindfold Challenge back. And this was a tough one. It was absolutely hilarious, seeing Lydia, Jonathan, and Drea call the challenge. It always is. It's always funny seeing people bump into things. Daniel's commentary from the sidelines was one of the funniest things about this challenge. And then I always think it's hilarious. It's like crazy that the caller has to do the puzzle and the caller has to, direct people where to go in the puzzle. It's a very tough challenge.
Yeah.
And as you put up the comment before from Daniel, gotta protect the balls, Rockstar line of the episode. Yeah, Daniel was great with the sideline commentary.
Daniel said, if Jeff doesn't say a comment about the balls, I'll do it. And listen, it's interesting. I love the blindfold challenges. I think they're super fun to watch. I mean, I feel bad that people run into everything, but I feel like it makes it kind of fun to see. But you know what? If you go on Twitter and you see some former survivors like, Rob Cisternino or other people that have played in these challenges, they can't stand watching it because they know how brutal this is. Like Rob says all the time on his podcast, he watched Colby or whoever it was, like almost knock Big Tom's head off with one of the blocks while he was blindfolded. So listen, I think fans love to see it. I think former players hate to watch it, but I agree with you that I love blindfold challenges, but seeing that added wrinkle of the caller must do the puzzle, but while directing blindfolded people to do it. I'm trying to remember where we've seen it a couple times before. I think the last time I remember seeing it for sure, I think it was Millennials Gen X, because that was a challenge where Figgy was calling and they lost, and then Hannah had like the little panic attack on the side. But they've done this once or twice, and I think it's a pretty cool wrinkle to it, because you could be leading the whole time, and then if your caller can't direct blindfolded people to do the puzzle, you're gonna blow your lead immediately.
So confirmed, yes, Millennials Gen X, who was in it. My friend is actually watching that season right now, and he just saw this episode and he confirmed that is in season 33. But yeah, great to see it come back. Love to see a classic challenge come back. So obviously here we had right to the wire, green and blue win immunity. Taku goes to tribal council. And obviously the group was deciding between Marianne and Myra. But as a viewer, I think we all, pretty much had a good idea that Mariah was going home in this episode.
I texted you and I was saying to you, and no offense to any, casual viewers out there, but I said to you, I wonder if any, casual viewers are genuinely wondering who's going home, because I guarantee you, if you go to like the Survivor Facebook page, or you were to poll the casuals, or as Jeff says, the people on the streets, I guarantee you most of them would have said, like, oh, who's it going to be? Is it going to be Marianne or Mariah? Oh, they're showing Marianne a lot. She's getting this whole package about her crush on Zach. Maybe it's her. And I'm like, I turned to my dad and I said, it's going to be, I mean, it was technically 3-0 with all the lost votes we had, but I'm like, it's going to be unanimous. Like, there's no shot Mariah staying here. Even ignoring what I saw in the previews, because I kind of knew what was going to happen by the previews before the season, but I knew for a fact that the reason why after the challenge before tribal, that little block of strategy there was so short. Like, you texted me as well. They try to say there's a misdirect of Marianne, but like, we see it coming a mile away, honestly.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just unfortunate for Mariah that she got stuck with like a tribe that she couldn't really relate to. Again, not her fault. And she has a great story. But one thing I do want to mention here, obviously, 3-0 vote for Mariah as she sacrifices her vote because she used the shot in the dark. So
and because Marianne has an extra vote, so she also sacrificed her vote tonight as well.
Right. So Marianne had no vote. She got the extra vote. That's great for her. Mariah used the shot in the dark. Now we've had two episodes, 2 shot in the darks to use. Again, this is crazy because season 42 did not see season 41 play, and they are adjusting to every single twist that Jeff is throwing at them, and that's a signal of a good cast 2 episodes in.
So I think there's a couple ways to break this down, because after this, I feel like we can go to questions, but there's nothing else to discuss after this. Like we said, this is pretty straightforward. I think this is a fact. I think this indicates 2 things. I think it indicates, one, that, like you said, this tribe is reacting better to the twists. Maybe they're better players. Maybe they're better at reading people, because maybe Zach and Mariah both said to themselves, I'm reading the body language. Like Zach even said in his post-game interviews, like when he talked to Swati in the first day or 2, and they're able to talk naturally and like look each other in the face and whatever, you get to day 3 and they're going to tribal and Swathi can't even look him in the eyes. Like you kind of just know, oh, it's probably me. And I wonder if Mariah, when she's talking with Jonathan, Lindsay, and Omar, like, hey, is it me or Marianne? They're like, oh, well, we're going to decide. I think it's Marianne. Like, it's not going to be you. She probably got a feeling and said, I'm going to play it no matter what. So this tribe is willing to take big risks, which I'm happy with. But the other thing, Dylan, is that I wonder if this is even more credit to Shannon Ricard for last season. Because I know you said, like, oh, well, season 42 may have a stronger cast or better players than 41. You also could argue it's even more impressive what Shannon Ricard did, where they completely like snowed their whole tribe with Sarah, with Brad, JD, and Jeannie, where it's like none of those people considered playing their shot in the dark because they felt, oh, I'm with Shannon Ricard, I'm fine. So I think it's even more impressive what they did. Or maybe last season was just so scared to risk their votes. I don't know.
So yeah, spin zone right there. You could look at it as if Shannon Ricard did an impressive job by having those guys not play their shot in the dark, or you could look at it as this cast because adjusting to the twist better by using their shot in the darks. So look, I think it's a little bit of both. Probably, obviously, Shannon Ricard were very impressive with what they did last season, but I think gut feeling so far that we're gonna see a shot in the dark save somebody this season, and it's gonna be wild.
That's going to be fun to see because now we've obviously seen 2 for 2. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I thought it was going to happen tonight. The way that Jeff like paused, I was like, maybe, but that would have been a brutal way for Marianne to go out. So,
that would have been, Twitter would have been in shambles. I tell you,
so bad.
People love Marianne so much. She's instant fan favorite. If there's any Sia money, it's going to go to Marianne probably, or maybe Hai, because Hai is a vegan. But the thing is, like, everyone loves her, and if she went home on a shot in the dark, Twitter would lose their minds. And here's the thing as well, and I think this is a problem with you and I being, such big fans of the show. I read into things too much. When it's 8:57 on the clock, and I'm like, he's reading the shot in the dark. I'm like, she doesn't get it, because then she would have to go out and vote or whatever, and Jeff had to explain, here's what happens. There wasn't enough time. I should just like block the clock.
Honestly, I wasn't even paying attention to that because
I should just like cover the clock and be like, I'm not even gonna see what time it is.
Well, I was like, well, only 3 people have their votes, so it wouldn't have taken long anyway. It would have been just like a quick thing. So I didn't really think the time mattered, but always have the time in sight.
But what I was gonna say was, I think you're right. Where yes, every time you do it, it's a 1 in 6 shot. Now here's the thing: every time they put their shot in the dark end, it's a 1 in 6 chance at that tribal. What we need to figure out, and I'm sure this has been proven, but I'll look at some interviews or whatever. I guess if let's just say 2 people, let's just say it's the merge now, and let's just say Lindsay and Tori play their shots in the dark. It's a 1 in 6 chance for each of them, I assume. I assume your chances don't get better. So so we'll have to see what happens in terms of 2 people doing it. But I think you're right. I think if we're already seeing 2 people back-to-back tribals use it, we're going to see it happen again. And I would not be surprised if someone turns their thing over and it says you are safe, and the pandemonium that's going to happen. So we'll have to see what goes on there.
So far, the shot in the dark has been played 3 times in Survivor so far, and we are 0 for 3 with it saving someone. So we're due.
I mean, listen, Voce said it's a 16.6666 chance. Like it's not common. Like you're not likely to get it.
Right. All right. So let's get to questions now. Just want to remind everyone to drop your questions in. We will get to them. If we could, be sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel. Really helps us out. Liking the video really helps us. So if you haven't done that already and you're watching, be sure to do that. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram at Soul Survivor Pod, scrolling on the bottom. Subscribe to Apple, Spotify, any other platform you may listen on. We are probably there. So links in the description below, and let's get to the questions.
Yeah, we only have 3 questions so far. So while we're talking, feel free to put more in the comments. I have to just pull up 2 comments, not questions, that made me laugh. I mean, obviously the Marianne Billy Garcia just it kills me every time. I saw people on Twitter being like, Zach from Ika Tribe. Yeah, we kind of mouth the words. I love you. It's so good. And then Tyler also had a comment here, like, Tori and Drea, could they be the Dom and Chris, where they try to work together, but go after each other? I could see it happening. But yeah, so if we get to our questions, let's go with Christian first. Christian has a couple questions. Hey guys, if Marianne makes the merge, do you think she's a GOAT and a 0 vote finalist, or 3rd runner-up in the finals? So this is a good question, because you're kind of saying to yourself, like, is she, I mean, it's right there. Like, is she like an Angelina? Is she like a Chelsea or Troyzan, or is she more like, like, Xander or whatnot. I think off the bat, I would not say she's a GOAT. Like right now, Marianne is so likable, even with her energy, that I don't think she is GOAT worthy in a sense. I think she would be very likable and a threat to win. And by proxy, I think if she makes it there, she'll win. So she wouldn't be third runner up. My current prediction, unless Marianne, proves us wrong and makes it there, I think I do see her falling victim to like an Elaine spot where final 6, 7, 8, somewhere in the mid merge, I see them just saying like, look, I'm sorry, we can't let you get any further. And Marianne, it's just nothing against you. We're going to lose to you. That's my prediction. But I think if she makes the merge, which I think she will, from what we're seeing so far, I think she's going to be a person where if you don't take her out, she'll win the game, I think.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I don't think she's a GOAT at all. And again, we're very early. For all we know, next episode she could find the Beware.
You said she could be like JD. You don't know.
For all we know, she could find an idol next episode or 3 episodes from now, and all of a sudden she's a huge threat. I already think she's a threat simply because of likability. So no, I don't think she's a GOAT. And obviously we're only 2 episodes in, so how could I judge this really at this point?
Yeah, Christian has another question. Do you think Drea Wheeler has a Natalie Anderson or a Vecepia Towery winner at it? So this is interesting because I will admit I watched Marquesa a long time ago, so my knowledge is a bit like limited on it. Obviously, I remember the Follow the Road to 4. I remember the Purple Rock. I remember Marquesas moments, but like some of the individual players do get a little bit like blurry for me. I know Vecepia had a great social game. And I know she did pretty well in terms of maneuvering to, flip the game on its head. I do think she played a bit of a different game than Natalie, though, because Natalie obviously is a very physical player. She's very blunt. And obviously Natalie was in a bad situation when Jeremy left, but she was able to turn it around, infiltrate her alliance back in. And then obviously the classic moments of Jacqueline, did you vote for who I told you to vote for? Quick side note, Dylan, I was watching some videos on YouTube where it was like the Survivor alphabet where it's like A is for this, B is for this. Like for example, N was like Natalie, can I have your jackets? But J was like Jacqueline, did you vote for who I told you to vote for? And it gives me chills every time. But I guess just to answer the question, and I'll pass it over to you, I feel like it's maybe a little too early. I mean, she obviously gives me Natalie vibes in terms of them being strong physical females and them being willing to take risks and go for, some advantages. Vecepia is a harder connection for me. I have to think about it more, but it's possible she could have a Natalie Anderson winner at it. The only thing is that Natalie, because Natalie's tribe won a lot, we didn't see Natalie a lot early on, and we're seeing a lot of Drea early on.
This could go 2 different ways. Is Drea going to make a deep run in this game, or is she the Michaela who brings her threat level so high pre-merge that she gets cut right before? Somebody who's dominant in every aspect of the game, pretty much to the point where right before the merge, they say, no, she can't be here going into the merge. Otherwise, she's way too big of a threat in terms of individual immunities and just in terms of gameplay. So I think, it's a little have to see what happens with what we call the mess of a tribe right now in the blue tribe.
Yeah, I just think that basically from what we saw last season in 41, even though we did lose someone kind of physical, I mean, I guess you could argue Voce was like kind of physical and so was Brad and JD, but typically you don't vote out your strongest member in a 3 tribe season. So like Jonathan's not going to go anywhere, kind of like how Danny wasn't going to go anywhere, or like Xander didn't go anywhere. I just don't think Drea goes pre-merge unless they have a swap, although I think you and I predicted there's going to be no swap, like there was no swap last season, because I could see her being a swap screwed or swap booted. I could see that happening, but I just don't like. They need Drea. They clearly need her. Like she didn't even do the physical part tonight, and she still led them to a victory on the puzzle. So like, I don't think she's going to lose, but I think she could be a, right when the merge happens, like she's got to go.
I agree.
2 more questions so far. Christian's last question here is, I think Daniel's going to be a threat in the merge and possibly making the semifinals or final 4. If so, I think he wins the final immunity challenge and makes fire and loses fire. Okay, so he thinks that Daniel could go all the way to the end at this point and be our loser in the fire making challenge. So if I read this correctly, Dylan, is Christian saying that he's going to be like a Chris Underwood where he wins the challenge, he puts himself into fire and he loses fire? So let's just say he and Chanel are like this the whole game. They're very tight, and they go to the end. And I'm making this up. He goes, okay, Chanel's going to win this game if I don't take her out. He puts himself into fire to take her out, and he loses. Like, is that you think what Christian is trying to say here?
Yeah, but I'm gonna withhold answering this question because I think we need to see more. It's way too early to make any judgments here.
The one thing I can think you and I can opine on is, could Daniel be a threat in the merge? And I think that we
Yes.
could. I think we can answer both sides. Like if he makes it there with how he already was reading Mike's advantage and how he was already thinking about either we do this or we cut him loose. Daniel knows this game and how to navigate through it. So if he makes it there, I do think he could be a threat.
Yeah, I do agree. All right. So from Tyler here, he says, I know you guys went over it, but for the blue tribe, who would you say is in the best and worst position? He said, I know you guys went over for the blue tribe, but who's on the best and worst
Each
position?
tribe. Okay.
Each tribe. Okay. So here, I'll leave the thing up here. So
Yeah.
I would say the best position. I think Romeo's in the best position for, Romeo's in the best position for blue. Worst position, I would still go Tori because it seems like we want to get her out. I would say for the green tribe, I would say Daniel's in the best position, right? Well,
it's hard. It's hard.
It's kind of hard to see because, like, I think Kai's in a good spot. I think Lydia's in a good spot. I think Daniel's in a good spot. I think Mike obviously is vulnerable given the idol, but we haven't really seen any dynamics on them because they haven't gone to tribal yet. And then for the orange tribe, I would say that Omar is probably in the best spot, and Marianne is in the worst spot simply because of the numbers. But again, she has the extra vote, so she would just need to flip one person to go to her side to change everything up.
Yeah, I can't disagree with anything you're saying. I mean, again, Romeo and Tori seems pretty obvious for the blue tribe. And then for Taku, the orange tribe, it's interesting because I could see myself saying Omar's in the best spot because he and Jonathan have a close bond. And I guess by proxy, he's close with Lindsay. And I think from what we see in the preview, I think he's actually closer to Marianne than Jonathan is. So overall, Omar has a connection to each person on the tribe, where Jonathan is a bit stronger with Omar and Lindsay, and he's a little bit looser with Marianne. So I would say Omar. And I guess, like you said, Marianne would be in the worst position, but I don't know if that's going to matter really. Listen, Omar can make a move where I don't know, maybe he uses an extra vote from Marianne and maybe they take out Jonathan's ally and Lindsay so he brings him closer. I don't know. It's a possibility. But Vati, the green tribe, is the one that's the hardest because they haven't lost yet and the tribes still look like a 2-2-2 splits. And Daniel, again, like you mentioned, appears to be in the best spot because he has his connection with Chanel and they're both strong players, but Mike is going to him with information. I guess people seem to trust him. So I guess I would say Daniel, but I guess in the worst spot, I guess, like you said, Mike, because, now Mike's advantage is kind of out in the open with Daniel, Chanel, and Jenny, so he could be a threat there. The only other person that I could see being in trouble on the green tribe is maybe Jenny, because if they lose and Lydia, Hai, Chanel, and Daniel team up, maybe they want to keep Mike for his challenge threats. But, here's an idea, and I would hate to do this because I love Jenny, and I think you like Jenny as well. Maybe Daniel wants to get rid of Mike to get rid of the idol, or if he wants to go with the first route to keep Mike to use the idol as a group, maybe he says, like, we keep Mike as a number, but we weaken Mike by taking out Jenny because Jenny's not as strong as Mike in the challenges. Like, so I guess I'll say Jenny or Mike is in the worst position, but again, we need to see Vati go to tribal to kind of see where these lines are definitively drawn.
Yeah, I do agree with that. All right, so looks like we are going to wrap up for this episode. If you have any additional questions, be sure to leave it in the comment section of this video. Comment any thoughts you have. Honestly, comment really helps us out. Once again, thank you to everybody who's watching. Thank you to everybody who watched live. And yeah, that's all we got for this week. We will be back Wednesday. Be sure to also drop in the comments any potential guests you may want us to have on. I've already spoke to Hef, actually, who was actually going to join us tonight, but he didn't. He did not end up watching in time, so could not. So he's probably watching right now, actually, as we talk. But for those who are OG fans of us, we did have a third host. And he, hopefully will be joining us a few times this season. So hopefully one of these episodes will get him on, even if it's just a little bit. But in terms of actual Survivor guests, former contestants, let us know in the comments. We'll try to see what we could do. I think, we haven't had one since Davey, around this time of last season. Mm-hmm. So we're due for another guest. So we're going to have to try to see what we can make happen.
Yeah, I need to text Jordan to see how he's liking the season so far. I have a feeling he might be liking it so far with the characters, but I'll have to see. Last question, is Jordan a fan of soccer? Would he be offended by Mike's comments?
He would not. He would not.
Okay, so if he insulted if Mike didn't like football or whatever, he would be more upset.
Yeah, probably.
But clearly, but clearly, like Mike loves football, so that's not going to be a
Right,
concern.
right.
But yeah, no. Hopefully, you're right, and hopefully Hef has the time to join us once or twice, because I think it's always fun chatting with you, Dylan. But I think Hef, with his hot takes, sometimes really brings some heat to the podcast.
Of course.
But yeah, as always, thank you again for watching us, and we have nothing else for you. So once again, grab your torches and head back to camp.
Good night.